I am about to start Bottom of the Pyramid by Nia Sioux. So I used to be a huge Dance Moms fan back in the day. I still kind of am. I do realize now how problematic and wrong Dance Moms was, but I want to be honest. Every once in a while, I do put it on as a comfort watch, because it is a comfort watch for me at this point. This and How I Met Your Mother are like my two comfort shows. I know it is hugely problematic and wrong now, but it is a comfort watch for me, and I do put it on from time to time. But I'm so excited because I always loved Nia, and Dr. Holly was by far my favorite mom on the group. She was the most level-headed, she was the one who always knew what was up, and she was the smartest. Hello, Dr. Holly. Yeah, I'm excited to get started with this. I do know Chloe did the foreword, so I am going to read that. I usually don't read, like, forewords or whatever, but I'm obviously going to read this one because Chloe did it. The question is, though, do I put Dance Moms on while I read it? We'll have to see. So I just read the foreword and introduction, and I will say one thing I did like is Nia saying that she is not writing this to have like a pain Olympics about who had the worst time on Dance Moms. She's writing this to tell her own story, and that the reason she didn't go on the reunion special with everyone else is because she just didn't trust the producers anymore at that point. She made a good point. She's like, they had 7 seasons or however many seasons to tell my story, and they didn't, so why would I trust them now? And just the maturity she has shown in the introduction alone, where she literally wrote, I wanted to write this right when I came off of Dance Moms, and I was angry and I had something to say, but I waited, and I'm glad I waited because it gave me time to reflect and not get rid of her anger, but like come to terms with it and just be more level-headed about it. So I do like reading about a little bit of Nia's life before Dance Moms and what the studio was like. I do like that she mentioned that the studio was very rowdy and gross, because that's like infamous Dance Moms lore, like the studio was gross. I did also find it fascinating that Nia said that like a couple of her lessons were taught by Abby's mom, who was the exact opposite of Abby, and she was kind and generous and she would correct you nicely. But the whole reason Nia joined the competitive team is because she wanted a solo to prove she was the best. Yikes. We see how that went. Unfortunately, we know how that edit of her went on Dance Moms. I am like horrified over what I just read. One, Abby would like name certain dance moves very not okay things. I don't want to say it here, but the one that Nia used as an example. But then also, Nia said something along the lines of like, yeah, Abby would buy us matching underwear sets because she said every little girl should have a matching underwear set. It's not okay. Do not buy, don't buy children that aren't your children underwear, please. Like, if she would have given them like matching leotards or all matching like dance wear 2 sets, that's one thing, but like literal underwear sets, that's awful and gross. I do like the writing style in this memoir. Like, for example, and I'm glad my mom died, very much told in a sense that like when Jeanette was 5, it was told like a 5-year-old was telling the story. When Jeanette was 3, it was, you know, this one is like basically told from Nia now, just looking back on all these things, and she's like, I remember not understanding this, but she's like can look back on it now and understand that. And I kind of like that we can add that in, because I like that she's explaining her thought process as a child, but she's adding like why now as an adult she understands things different. What are you doing? What are you doing? So it's very interesting to read that Nia actually dealt with like kind of like a chronic pain thing, complex regional pain syndrome, which basically like means she would get random pain flare-ups for like kind of no reason. Her body was just telling her she was in pain for some reason. But she knows that this has a lot to do with her mental health, which I'm sure going into Dance Moms wasn't great. That's very interesting because like she said she had to learn how to distinguish between like real injury and this, and how to like basically control her mind enough to like not have these pain flare-ups, because they said that when she was in like outpatient therapy that would help. I also, again, about Nia's like chronic pain type thing, I don't really know how to sum it up, but she kind of mentions that like she was gone for a year and everyone else in her class advanced while she kind of stayed stagnant, and maybe even regressed a little because she wasn't training every day for a year. And that is another thing that, because this is very close to when Dance Moms started, so that could have, this is just me coming to conclusions, this is not me saying this, but Abby would always say that Nia was like a little behind everyone, but like she also missed the year when everyone did it. It's kind of like an offhand remark, but I just want to say this book is like very easy to read. I know I'm only like 2 chapters in, but I felt like these 2 chapters have flown by. Like it's not, how do I put this correctly? It's not taking me like a lot of, it's grabbing my attention and it's keeping it, and I feel like I'm just flying through it. I find it very interesting that like Nia said flat out that their attorney that they consulted about the contract, first they only had like a day to look over the contract and assign it, or else they wouldn't get the spot. But 2, their attorney like admitted to them like this is not a good contract. They signed it because they thought it was only 6 weeks. Their contract even had an agreement on it, like it is 6 weeks unless they get picked up, and then it's 7 seasons. I mean, it's really sad like reading about Nia, how she like just wanted to fit in with these other girls that were her age, and she was kind of like, she said she really liked hanging out with Kenzie, and she became like really good friends with Kenzie, but like she was always like kind of forced to hang out with Kenzie. Like she said one time she tried to sit with the other girls, but they moved her back to be with Mackenzie. Damn, like she's a better person than me, because like I would still be holding that grudge to this day. I love Nia clarifying that the competitions were real, like they really did compete and they were judged by real judges against other competitors. However, they were made for the show. Studios that were invited were picked by the show, and the number of entries they had were also picked by the show. While they were really being judged, it was kind of like manufactured. Update, I ended up putting on Dance Moms. Oh my god, it's just so heartbreaking to like listen to Nia be like, the blush shade Abby would want us to use for different dances didn't look the same on me as other girls, or like my hair wouldn't work the same way as other girls. And she did mention like, oh, the girls would be disappointed when we couldn't do like a hairstyle, but like they were kids. I'm not gonna blame them too harshly. Abby literally asked her, wouldn't it be easier if you were white? And Nia said, like, straight up, no. Which, yeah, good for you. Like, say no. After incident. And she was, like, literally talking about, like, how she would use zip ties to tie headpieces to her head to make sure they didn't fall off, because she was just so scared. It would cause her, like, scalp to bleed. Oh, my God. Even though it was kind and it was reassuring, it was, like, complimenting Nia, the fact that she got a text from Gabby Hanna, oh my god, I just got jump scared in this book by reading her name. Also, I will say, I don't blame the girls because they didn't really understand what was going on, but for Abby's comments to then affect how the other moms saw Nia and treated Nia, I will put on them. I love that Nia mentioned before the show that she used to get like consistently in the top 5 at all competitions with her solos, but after the show it seemed like her dances were also like watered down, but it kind of goes with like what was confirmed, not earlier in this book, but earlier in general, is that Abby would give Maddie the best choreography and everyone else, like, worse choreography to showcase Maddie. And Nia even said she thought that Abby used this show as a way to showcase Maddie and all the other girls were background. I love that Nia keeps mentioning this book, the, like, cultural impact that Dance Moms had, not only on, like, the dance world, but pop culture in general. It is, like, so sad to listen to everything Nia, like, just kind of gave up and didn't think about ever doing, because she was just so dedicated to dance and wanted to be a good dancer and be seen as a good dancer by Abby. I am absolutely living for all the small little digs at Abby throughout this book. But also, I feel like this was also, like, if you have been in the fandom for a while, this was a very well-known fact that Abby was very, racist to Nia behind the scenes and, like, a lot of the things she said. However, like, Nia is reviewing this one incident that's very infamous, the, like, little 2D incident. First of all, the week that it happened. But then, like, Abby got physical with Nia. That is crazy that she wasn't fired off the show. It's crazy that production did hire someone to be, like, a child advocate on set. But it only made things worse, because that meant Abby had to be on her best behavior and bottle everything up for when they were there. But then she would be worse when they left. Crazy also that the child advocate wasn't constantly on set. It is also insane to me that, like, Nia did win. She won a national title and the show didn't show it. It's, like, so sad to hear how isolated Nia was most of the time on the show. She truly had no one to ever back her up. Like, Kelly and Christy had each other. They always backed each other up, and then, you know, their daughters were all very close, and then Maddie and Mackenzie had each other as sisters, and then Maddie and Kendall were really close, but, like, no one had Nia's back. I do like that the producers did, like, one nice scene for Nia, and that they dedicated an episode of the show to her grandfather after he passed, who was, like, so important to her. I do appreciate that. At least they had, like, one good good thing they could do. I hate that Nia was also seen as like the weakest link, not only by Abby and the moms in production and like the girls, but like then the fandom. She said like she would get like less attention at fan events and it really hurt her ego. And like, look, I never went to a fan event. I never met any of the girls in person. I probably could have been accused of doing that. It really just makes you sit and think about how you act in fandom culture, especially when like that fandom involves like real people's real lives. So interesting. I knew Chloe wasn't part of the dance team after season 3, I believe. I think she was on it during season 4, but I didn't know Nia actually like left the ALDC technically either during or after season 5, she said, because I thought she was like technically part of the ALDC throughout the entire show, but no, she was just part of Dance Moms. I do love that in addition to sharing all of the obviously bad experience that she had, not just on the show, but like even with her other castmates, Nia also does share like all the good times they had together, all the moments that they shared together. She even mentioned how all the girls like pitched in money to buy her a dog one year for her birthday because she kept begging for one. It is nice to see that side of it too. It's so sad to see that even like when she was first on the show at 9, Nia knew she couldn't be and act and do things like everyone else because of her ethnicity. She didn't want to be labeled as something she wasn't. Being the same as other little kids, she had to act more mature. I do just want to add in real quick, if it seems like I'm not saying a lot about Abby being very racist on the show, that's because like most of the stuff I'm commenting on is like new stuff I'm discovering and stuff seen from Nia's point of view. A lot of Abby's racism, especially toward Nia, we already knew about for a very long time, not just like from the show, but like also behind the scenes notes that have been leaked. It's not new information to me, so like I'm not having a fresh reaction to it. I am happy that Nia got no chance not to only work with other people who saw her potential, but other Black people who got to saw her potential, because she said it just gave her all that much more confidence. Seeing people who were having the same like social difficulties as she did succeed and like try to mentor her. Crazy of Nia to say that to this day Jill still sees no issue with Kendall playing Rosa Parks. Jill, what are you talking about? I am dying because I literally just finished the episode of Dance Moms that had the watermelon incident, and now Nia is talking about the watermelon incident because she does list in the back of the book like the episode she's talking about is specifically if you want to see for yourself like what was happening on the camera. It's so cool. It's like a surreal experience watching Dance Moms while reading the book. I do also like Nia mentioning that a lot of the girls on the show have been trying to educate themselves and better themselves from how they treated Nia since the show. And I do like that she added that Melissa has apologized for a lot of the things she did over the years, not just like instances against Nia, but I like a lot of things, which is so like refreshing to hear because like watch Dance Moms, you knew Melissa was a menace to society. I like how this book is put together. The chapters are put together by like subject and not chronological, and I do really appreciate that. It kind of makes it seem like you're reading a bunch of like small essays put together. I feel like it makes it flow a lot better and feel a lot more cohesive. I love Nia like describing her relationship with her mom and just saying how good it was and how a lot of the girls, their relationships with their mom, like, you know, typical teenager stuff, it like was on and off during the show, and she even admits like that's just being a teenager. But Nia said like it was never like that with her. Her mom was always her best friend and still is. And she even mentioned like I didn't want my mom when I started more work professionally. I didn't want my mom to be my manager because I didn't want that to ever come between us. I like that Nia points out the like internet culture and people digging deeper into the show and pointing out these injustices before she even wrote about them. She goes, it just made me feel more validated and more confident in telling my story. I also like that Nia wasn't afraid to shy away from very personal, her family life. She mentioned how the show affected her brothers and her father and everything, and how her and her mom being constantly away affected all their relationships. I love that she wasn't afraid to like uglier side of her personal life, not just their life on the show. So Nia is like really talking about how like social media changed everything for her because she actually got to showcase herself and like the narrative of who she really was instead of what the producers and Abby saw her as and wanted her to be portrayed as. And she said like it was insane like when people actually got to see who she was, the amount of like flip in everyone's mind, because everyone would comment like, oh, you're such a great dancer, you're so talented. And she said I got more opportunities the minute I started promoting myself, basically like how all the other girls were being promoted on the show. It's just like, which is like just proving her point that like she was always capable of this, that Abby and the producers weren't letting her do it. I like just want to scream at the top of my lungs. Like, every time you think you can't be more shocked, you get more shocked. Nia is like literally talking about how she and Kalanda dance and it was like an African dance routine. And Abby said that Kalani looked more African than Nia. And even Nia, like, is getting pissed off at the end of this, like, little section. Because she's like, what does that even mean? Like, that was ridiculous. So Nia's talking in this part right here about how she was actually scouted for an off-Broadway show. Similar to, I think, Maddie in the Sia video. I think Sia specifically wanted Maddie, but she was like scouted for an off-Broadway show, and she got great pay. She got to work with people who actually appreciated her. She got seen on the stage, and she even got like an actor's equity card. And she said this is like the first time she felt her future was bright after Dance Moms, and this was the first time she like saw her life outside of Dance Moms. And she said that's when I decided I wanted to leave. But the thing is, I don't think she left, because I think she did stay for her entire contract, but the next like chapter is called Saying Goodbye, so I guess we'll maybe see there. Okay, so yeah, like very first part of the next chapter, Nia mentions like, I was thinking about just quitting Dance Moms, but she said I only had one season left in my contract and I didn't want to break my contract for one season. I did demand more pay. But it's very interesting because she said that all the girls got a raise, not just her, but she was the only OG girl left. By seniority wise meant she should have been getting more money. Nia goes on to say that like there was this one dance that they did where Nia played a role that Abby gave her, and the character was like a little bit more like rebellious and like her own person, and Abby criticized her for playing the character. And Nia's like, bitch, you gave me that role. She would just find any reason to put this girl down. Oh my god. I also like that Nia mentioned that like even though she was excited to leave Dance Moms, rightfully so, and she was ready for this new chapter of her life, she didn't know what this meant. Like, she has been on Dance Moms since she was like 10. She was on it for 7 years. She got most of her opportunities with her association, even though like Dance Moms itself didn't get her opportunities because they were kind of holding her back. Her association with Dance Moms gave her the fame to be able to look for opportunities for herself. And she said she knew she couldn't return to just being a kid from Pittsburgh because everyone knew her name. So she's like, I didn't even know like what this meant for me anymore. I like that she even said I didn't have a place to dance regularly anymore. I didn't know what to do. So originally Nia was supposed to be part of the Irreplaceables tour, but she pulled out at the last minute just because like things weren't coming together good. She never signed a contract, and then instantly Kira tried to sue her for pulling out of the tour before she signed a contract. Not great things have also come out about Kira over the years, so not shocking. But I do again like that Nia wasn't afraid to post a little bit of like a uglier side of her, because she said even though in this industry you are told to like, you are basically taught to keep your mouth shut until everything is signed and legal and contracted. Cameron, who she said she made quick friends with in her final season of Dance Moms, she didn't tell Cameron about the tour, and Cameron was left out of it. Cameron wasn't happy and like put a strain on their friendship. I know Nia just had to have been so upset, not only because like she kind of felt like she like backstabbed her friend or whatever, but also because like she knew how something like that felt. I don't think she did anything wrong because, again, nothing was signed, and, like, you really aren't supposed to be talking about that kind of stuff until stuff is signed. But, again, like, Nia knew how that felt, so she probably felt, like, really bad about that. Another thing is, like, Nia normalizing therapy through this book. She said, you know, I had to go through a lot of therapy to really uncover and deconstruct what I learned on the show. I do like her sharing, like, obviously she's not sharing too personal stuff that she talked about in therapy, but she is sharing some of the lessons that she learned in therapy. A lot of readers, including myself, can like take and apply to their own lives. I love Nia explaining like her journey to reclaiming dance and just not feeling like dance was something she had to dread again. And she said she even quit for a while, but she came back to it and just reclaimed it. And how she kind of want to makes it for her. She doesn't really want to share it just yet. Maybe one day she wants it to be just for her for now. Reading about like everything Nia's done, like even during Dance Moms and then after Dance Moms, makes me want to go like watch this. Like she's talking about the soap opera she was on, and I'm like, now I want to start watching it.
I also like that Nia is putting in here all of the like other stuff she does outside of like work and stuff. Like she said she's been doing a lot of volunteering with like voting and promoting voting, and she even got invited to the White House for the Christmas decorating. Okay, a little flex there.
Nia has like one of the most impressive resumes I have ever read, not only like with her dance, film, acting work, but also like her political work. She's interviewing the vice president, she is interviewing the president, she's going to all these press releases. Like, damn girl, like, do you have time to breathe? So I find it interesting that Nia wanted to reach out to Abby just one more time right around when she had her cancer diagnosis and just clear the air and finally like settle things between them, and Abby denied it, saying, I have nothing more to say to you, you've said everything you need to say over the internet, we're good. But Abby still takes credit for Nia's success, even though Abby prohibited Nia's success. Nia noting that when Abby made her huge apology for all her like racism that came to light, Nia said, "It's funny how in her apology she never named me, almost saying that like she still condones everything she did to me."
So I have just finished Bottom of the Pyramid by Nia Sioux, and I really liked it. It was just so good, and it was so eye-opening. Again, like, some of the stuff she mentioned in there, like, we already knew has already been revealed to us as the audience, but just, like, hearing it from her words and her perspective on it, and then her, like, looking back and reflecting on it is insane. And then also just getting to hear, like, what she's up to now, what she's done since the show, and how she never let the show really define her, how she didn't want that to be the main thing she was known for. It was just so good. I highly recommend it for any Dance Moms fans, but also for anyone who just wants like to read an uplifting memoir. Again, I don't want to compare it to Jeanette McCurdy's, but in a lot of ways it did remind me of Jeanette McCurdy's memoir. Yeah, it was just so good. The only thing I will say semi-critical toward it is that I did think that a lot of the stuff got repeated a lot. Specifically, like, there were certain sentences that I kept noticing were the same over and over again in different parts of it. That's the only note I have, though, is that like it felt like she was like reusing some sentences at some parts, but again, still very good, and it's her story, so like if she felt that was how she needed to tell it,